With our guys from the forum, Mike McFeely and Jeff Kolpack. North Dakota State wins a 10th Division I national championship, 35-32 over Montana State. We have seen many a game here, all 11, in fact, the Bison have played. We see some clunkers. This was not one of them.
Oh,
here.
Gosh, no. It was Cam Miller. Obviously, to me, it was like Trey Lance of 2019. The Bison just said, okay, here, number 5, go win the game. I felt like today it was like, okay, number 7, you're the guy. We think you should have won the Walter Payton Award. There was a little, I think, edge there that he didn't get it from him and his teammates. And, boy, he's just phenomenal today. 19 of 22, leading rusher. The 64-yard touchdown was a big play. That's what dudes do, is win national titles.
We talked about at the start of the year. Cam Miller had to have his best season if the Bison were going to have any success. And by all accounts, it certainly happened. His teammates took it personally that he didn't win the award on Saturday night.
It sure seemed like it. I asked about that of some of the players in there and Cam in there as well, and Cam didn't want to go there, but the other Tim Polsek brought it up. He said Cam Miller was the best quarterback on the field tonight. The other guy was good. Our guy was the better guy, and that was certainly an edge for North Dakota State. And Cam Miller teared up and got choked up today, talking about the fact that his team believed in him and North Dakota State believed in him and gave him a chance when nobody else would. And in the past, he referenced the other night about how everybody wanted him removed as a starting quarterback outside the NDSU program. And I think he overstated that a little bit, but it certainly meant something to him, and it certainly motivated him. And he had, I don't know if it was his best game as a Bison, but it was certainly his best game at the best possible time for the Bison.
An unreal streak continued tonight, gentlemen, for Bison coaches in their first year to win a national championship. Chris Kleiman did it, Matt Entz did it, and Tim Polsek has now done it, Jeff.
What do you say? I mean, it was a great coaching job for a first-year guy. Yes. It started when he got here right away and retaining guys because there was obviously
Miller being one of them.
Yeah, and we've gone over it so many times, but he had to retain his guys, and that was the biggest thing. Did that. Took Bryce Lance to a way another level nobody thought, and he was just phenomenal today. That catch on 3rd and 6 after a false start penalty was another huge play. You can't say enough about the staff and the way they went about it, and you never know it was his first year as a head coach. No. You would have thought maybe he came from somewhere else as a head coach. Hard to do.
We can't not avoid the big elephant in the room, and that's Bryce Lance. 5 years ago, his older brother puts on an unreal performance the night after he won the Walter Payton. Bryce has done this all season long, started with Tennessee State with 3 touchdowns in there. Today, and it seemed fitting, Mike, he recovered the onside kick. He was everywhere.
Yep, 9 catches, a couple of, the catch down there probably should have been a touchdown. It looked like his whole body was inside the pylon, but they scored anyway. The catch down here, a couple of clutch 3rd down catches are mixed in there. He actually dropped a ball or got his hands on a ball across the middle that he maybe should have had and was mad that he didn't. I mean, just so good. I mean, combine that with Cam Miller's play and the quarterback play. And we wondered before the season who the dudes were going to be offensively. And the 2 biggest dudes, Cam Miller and Bryce Lance, showed up in the national championship game and dominated it.
This was not your typical Bison team. They won some shootouts. East Tennessee State, they won that. The second game with the Jackrabbits tonight. It wasn't a typical Bison defense.
I started something with Polsek because I asked him before one of those games against, I think, Abilene Christian. I said, "Can you win a shootout?" And in the press conference, he kind of gave me the standard coach speak answer. And then, later on at a different session with him, he's like, "We can win a shootout. We can win a shootout." And he brought that up again today, and he kind of looked at me and goes, "We can win a shootout." And I didn't mean it as a insult. It's just not NDSU's way. And maybe I'm the old guy. You guys were calling me old before we turned the camera on here. Maybe I'm still stuck in 2017 when they ran the ball so much. 7 years ago. But this was a multiple offense that didn't rely on the run, and many of the big plays tonight were through the air. It wasn't with the legs or the running backs especially, it was through the air.
I will say, though, the Bison defense needed one stop. They got it on that 3rd down there that forced Montana State to punt in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, that was a big one, and I thought before that, the Bison had 4th and less than a yard.
Yeah, that was an interesting call.
And after Montana State scored the first 3 times they had the ball, the second half they had touchdowns. And Mike and I were thinking, well, maybe you better think about going for it because you can't stop them. But Tim Paulsek did the Craig Bowl, did the conservative thing, punted it, and then they stopped him on the other end, which was huge.
A few words on Marty Brown, who the Bison O-line finally was getting a push there. Marty started getting a couple big runs and then capped it off with that touchdown.
Yeah, I got the tough yards, and I thought the biggest thing was on first down where if he got 6 or 7, 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3. Now that's the Bison offense of old, That's that 2018-17 offense. So they had plenty of manageable second downs, and I think that a lot of it was due to Marty Brown's runs.
Let's have a quick few words here on Montana State. We were talking on Hot Mic on Monday about if not now for Montana State, when? And they were here in droves. I think it was 70-30 Montana State fans here in the crowd tonight. This was their all-time team, and they lost.
Well, let's start first with North Dakota State, and then I'll weave and wind my way to Montana State. I asked Tim Paulsek the question in the press conference, were you surprised by this championship? Because there was a lot of questions from us, from inside the coaching rooms. They didn't know what they were going to do at running back necessarily. The tight ends have not been what they once were. The offensive line was new. They thought Bryce Lance could be good. And Tim, gave me the answer. But here's the deal. You and I and Jeff have all referred to this Bison team as the most flawed team in this run. Doesn't mean they're bad. We never said they're a bad team, but they just had some questions. The most flawed team, we think, in the last 15 years just won a national championship. This is Montana State's greatest team ever, at least in the last 40 years.
Right.
I mean, they've built for this for 4 years. They had the Walter Payton Award winner, maybe their best quarterback in school history. They thought they were better in the lines of scrimmage. This was their shot. So now if you're the Big Sky Conference, if you're Montana State, if you're Montana, you go, we couldn't beat their 15th best team. I mean, so what do we do? And so that's sort of the conundrum in FCS is that, if the Bison, not at their total most awesome, dominant best, can still win a national championship, what if Paulsek really gets this thing going now and just gets absolutely loaded again, even in the transfer portal era, maybe even more in the transfer portal era, who was going to beat him?
That was his quote as he before this game, I think it was earlier this week, on his roster, I've got some work to do. Yep. I've got some work to do. Well,
how much?
How much work? How much work is right,
Yeah, and just, what can the rest of the FCS do? They can go to the Mountain West and say, would you please take these guys? Who was it? It was in South Dakota coach, 1986. I wish they'd get him the hell out of Division II. I go there, back to that.
Well, you just look at the rest of FCS. They're just shaking their head tonight on a team like we've talked about that, didn't have a dominant defense. Offensive line was good, not great. They have one NFL or maybe a second guy in Mason Miller. That just wasn't the team that we thought, whoa, this is a world beater like 2019, like 21, even though we thought they weren't very good. They were really good. That wasn't the case in 2024.
Well, yeah, but you got to remember, again, you're kind of skewed by
you're no doubt.
That 2021. Was it that picture you had where all offensive linemen are in the NFL?
Yes.
I mean, there's literally NFL talent dotted for the last 12, 13, 14 years. And this team, maybe, you got Gray Zabel, Cam's going to get a shot. Bryce looks like he might be working in, but it's not this, you don't see these, 12 guys that are going to go to a pro day and think maybe most have a legitimate shot at a free agent or something. I don't see that in this team, but so that's when you say it's the most flawed team. It's just not as talented.
Again, to make clear to everybody, including Coach Paulsek, when you watch this, nobody's saying this is a bad team or bad kids or untalented. It's just not as dominant. Where when they walk on the field, you go, they're going to win by 35 points.
I think he knows that too.
But I just want to make that clear. It's not an insult to anybody, especially the kids. But it just, and so you look at it and go, good luck. Good luck to everybody else. But now, that being said, the transfer portal now is open for 5 days.
I wanted to go there to wrap things up because on a national stage, there's no other games tonight. There's got to be some Power 4 coaches looking at Bryce Lance. They're looking at Marty Brown and how do we get those guys? And how much do we have?
Right. When Bryce Lance caught that ball down here, I got 2 texts from people that said, wonder how many phone calls are going into Bryce Lance's phone in the locker room right now. And that's, we can logically assume that there's been some reaching out and some contacts. I don't know that, but logic says it has been happening. Tim Paulsek has said he doesn't think any guys are leaving, but I mean, they're never going to say, yeah, we think 6 guys are going to leave, so we'll see in the next 5 days what happens.
And in April as well.
And just, if you're a Bison fan and a Bison coach right now, just clench your jaw. And if you're a prayerful person, hit your knees and start praying, because the next 5 days are going to be scary.
Last thing for you, Jeff, look at where it's now 2025. Cole Payton will be the quarterback, we assume, of this Bison football team. We think it's hard to assume who's going to be back, but the foundation is here. That, again, knowing what's going to happen with South Dakota State or South Dakota, it's going to be hard to pick against the Bison in 2025.
Well, yeah, tomorrow they're bringing in the demolition trucks here. Yeah. And this stadium's going bye-bye and being totally rebuilt and redone. So no title game here for 2 years. See you in Nashville, I guess. I mean, until somebody else comes along, another 3, 4, 5 teams that is built to be able to get this far, I don't know how you can't say they won't be in Nashville.
South Dakota State was the team for 2 years. They had the best team in the subdivision. They were better than NDSU. There's no question about it. This team was supposed to be. I'm pointing to the Montana State sideline. Everybody thought they were going to win. Outside of NDSU and the fan base thought they were going to win. Everybody wanted them to win because they're so sick of North Dakota State, and NDSU beat them. So, I mean, we're kind of right back to where we were in 2019 or 2021 going, who's going to beat them?
Who's going to step up and do it again? 11 championships in 14 years. Gentlemen, this was awesome as always. Appreciate you stopping by. Our thanks to Mike McFeely and Jeff Kolpack for joining us.